Hi guys, hope you've all been keeping well. Another battle report for you. This one's a bit of a funny one really. It's 2,400 points against 3,000 points. Three of my students have brought along a 1,000-point army. And the challenge is for me to overcome the deficit or for them to make good of it. So I haven't put the spells rolled on there for you, so I will just mention them now. The High Elves rolled Hand of Glory and Soul Quench, and the Empire Battle Wizard rolled the Burning Head and decided to take Fireball. My Herald of Nurgle, who's a level 1 on Law of Death, took the Fate of Bajuna. Wasn't sure whether to swap that out for Spirit Leech, but I thought, it's such a good spell, it's hard to turn down, even though it's got a high casting value. And my Demon Prince, who's level 4 on Nurgle, ended up with the Miasma of Pestilence, which is rubbish and never used. The Curse of the Leper, which is either -3 toughness to my opponent or +3 toughness to me. Fleshy Abundance, which improves the regeneration on Nurgle units. Well, any unit, but used for Nurgle units, of course. And Plague Wind. So I'll just leave these army lists on the screen for a moment in case you want to take a look at them. Okay, so in this game, I've said to my students, I'm not going to tell them if they make any mistakes. The mistakes are there for them to make, and then I would give them feedback afterwards. So there will be feedback during this video. So here we are in deployment then. So what have we got? Well, we've got this cannon is actually a grudge thrower. Ewan didn't have the model for a grudge thrower, and that's fine. An Empire mortar here, and then a Dwarf organ gun here, with the Master Engineer well placed to help out all three. So that's a good start there. Unit of Elven Archers here, and the Mage here has been deployed in the wrong place. The Mage should not be right out on the edge here. It limits the range of his spells, and it limits his leadership bubble. A lot of wasted leadership bubble over here. So that's that there. Unit of Quarrelers here. Unit of Ironbreakers here. This unit right here in the middle is the Dragon Princes. Nothing wrong with deployment here. This is well protected gun line formation, so that's fine. Steam Tank in the middle. Here is the Gyrocopter. And then here we've got the Empire Archers with the Wizard, and this is fine. Empire Archers there, cleverly disguised as skinks. The Eagle has been placed quite centrally, and this is good, I think, because it means that you can use that as a redirector later on. Then here in the middle of the line we've got the White Lions, and then here a unit of Spearmen. Reavers on the flank here. This is smart because it means your fast cavalry can zip down the flank and get in the way, so that's good. And a Knightly Order on the flank. I suppose there's a bit of anvil and hammer in here, so that kind of makes sense, so that's fine. On my side, over here is the Skull Cannon, then a unit of Beasts. The Demon Prince is here. This is, I forget the name of it, it's the magical mystery that lets you channel up to 4 times. I think it's an arcane rune, but I might be wrong about that. Unit of Plague Bearers, 2 units of Furies, then the other unit of Plague Bearers, and that guy there is the Herald of Nurgle. Unit of Blight Kings here, and the Plague Drones just here. So just to let you all in on my thought process, what am I thinking here? Well, the first thing that springs to mind is I am concerned about these White Lions here. I'm 99% sure that Fred, one of my students, has got the Banner of the World Dragon in here. So I need to get these Blight Kings into combat here. And even then, the Blight Kings are going to struggle, so I'm going to try and set this up as favourably for them as I can. I'm thinking my drones here are going to be able to smash through this unit of High Elves here and then get into these war machines. That's easier than taking on these Quarrelers, who are likely to have great weapons. And then I'm thinking this Gyrocopter is quite dangerous. Obviously, that can spout fire all over my rank and file troops here. So I'm going to try and take this out. And I do like this line here, this cannonball shot. If it goes really well, I can smash through the gyrocopter and then perhaps take a few wounds off the steam tank if things are really lucky. I am also concerned about these war machines having a good line of sight on my Demon Prince, especially the Grudge Thrower. So I've put the Demon Prince there, and actually they can't see him at the moment, so I'm thinking I'm probably just going to bring him over here behind the house and then perhaps go into combat that way. Otherwise, I'm thinking, move forwards. And the beasts, I think, can hold this flank here as long as they don't get into combat with these white lions, perhaps take on the knightly order and or the spearmen. And then I'm thinking these units here can sort of advance forwards, and we can save these units for later for a bit of redirection. So I got the first turn, so there's going to be no opportunity for the Demon Prince to channel over here, but that's the way it goes. That's where the scenery ended up, so that's how it is. So what have we done? Well, the cannon is lining up for that shot, as I'd mentioned. The drones have sort of advancing towards the elves here. This charge is far too long, so I've decided to hover in the first instance. Everything else is sort of moving upwards. The position of the Blight Kings is important here because I'm trying to make a diagonal towards these white lions. I'm hoping perhaps to go around the back of the building. I'm thinking the white lions might be baited to come this way around, and I might be able to catch them. I do have the banner of swiftness here, but I don't want to make this too obvious. So yeah, that's it for movement. So this is the end of the turn for the demons, and if we're honest, it's not been a great one. The Winds of Magic was a 7, so no bonuses there. I did channel 1, and I've cast Curse of the Leper on this knightly order, which, boys, I think you were right to let through. There's no shooting down here, so the lower toughness wasn't a big issue. And then I've tried to cast Plague Wind on your knights. I'm trying to sort of send that vortex towards you. It's an artillery dice ×4. Now, actually, what I'm trying to do here is to pull out your Dispel Scroll. I'm trying to get you to spend it really early, because these knights were toughness 1. So if that vortex had have landed on them, it would have ripped the unit apart, because there's no armor saves against Plague Wind. But you were right when you said that it probably wouldn't. On the roll of a 2, it would go 8 inches, it'd end up about here. On the roll of a 4, it'd go 16 inches, it'd end up about here. On the roll of a 6, it'd possibly hit the front of the unit or somewhere around about there. 6 or an 8, it would have hit you, 6 or an 8, probably a 6. 10 or a misfire, it goes over you. Basically, it's quite unlikely to hit you, and you spotted that, and that was good. Now, actually, as it happened, you rolled your 4 dice or whatever it was that you had, and you got a double 6 anyway, so that didn't matter. And then in the shooting phase, the Skull Cannon has taken a shot at the gyrocopter, hit it, and I'm thinking, great, going to kill this thing right at the start. Caused 1 wound. So that was the end of my turn. So into my opponent's movement phase then. The Dragon Princes have moved up into the front. Not sure about this. They don't really have the mass to take on a bigger unit. They kind of need to be approaching something on the flank, although I suppose there is the possibility of going after the Blight Kings later on. They might get through the Blight Kings just because there are so few of them. The White Lions are advancing at full speed, that's fine, and the Empire Archers are coming up here. The Knightly Order, you decided to do a free reform to change your direction and then move. You could have probably just marched and wheeled, but it's not a big deal. The position of the Reavers here is good, using them as a redirector on these beasts. Although, if I overrun quite a high number, it's going to send me this way. And what I'd have been tempted to do would have been to put the Reavers here, so that if I charge you, I end up going this way out of the battle. But that's a small thing, but something to learn for the future. The steam tank put 1 steam point into its movement and moved 1 inch. That was a mistake. You should have put at least 2 steam points if not 3, into it to get that steam tank over here and causing all kinds of mayhem. Putting 1 steam point into movement is rarely going to be a good thing to do. And then, of course, the gyrocopter, as it's still alive, has moved over here, and this is fine. This is perfectly good use of the gyrocopter to breathe some fire onto the plague bearers here. Right, so this is the end of my opponent's end of turn. Boys, you were quite unlucky to only get 4 on the Winds of Magic, a 3 and a 1. You decided to put a fireball from your Empire Wizard into the Demon Prince. This was, I think, a pretty smart decision, because the Demon Prince does pose a fairly big threat to you. So you managed to take a wound off him, and you decided to go with 2d6 version instead of the 3d6 version. I think that was the right thing to do. The chances of you'd have needed a roll of 16 on 4 dice, which is slightly less than even's chance. So I think the 2d6 version was the right thing to do. Although I might have been tempted, had I have been you, to have gone for a soul quench on the drones. I think that might have been a better option, because I haven't committed very much to this flank. If you take out the drones, you pretty much control this side of the board. So that would have been something to think about. The gyrocopter has taken out 5 wounds on the plague bearers, so that was fine. You decided to fire your steam tank cannon at the drones, and that was good, but you actually, the way you placed the die ended up taking you through 1 plague drone instead of through 2. So you had an opportunity to take out 2 and you only took out 1. So that's something to learn for next time. The mortar and the grudge thrower. Right, now this is important. If you take one thing away from this battle report, it needs to be this. The way you were using them was to place the templates in a location between other units, like here or over here, and hope that it would scatter onto another unit. That is just not the way to use them. What you need to do is to place them on a unit. On your scatter die, you have a 1 in 3 chance of a direct hit. And even if it does scatter, on the scatter of a 2 or a 4, it's not going to scatter far enough to miss. That's even more relevant when you have a master engineer on the board who can re-roll your scatter dice. So you need to place your grudge thrower or your mortar shot on the target that you want to hit. Now then, the mortar, when it didn't scatter where you wanted it to, you decided to re-roll it, and it actually ended up hitting the gyrocopter, which was quite comical. But there you go, that's just the way that goes. The grudge thrower missed, and you were quite unlucky really to only get 2 2s on your organ gun. So the organ gun actually caused no wounds on the drones when it should have done quite a few, so that's the way that is. The elf archers did a good job. You decided to target the drones, which was fine, and the quarrelers did the same thing, and between the 2 units you managed to take out a drone. Actually though, you know, between the cannon and the organ gun and all these archers, you could have even taken out the whole unit if you'd have been lucky, so there you are. And then the Empire archers took out Fury, and I think there's a certain amount of sense in that, because, you know, later on it might be the difference between me having 1 model left to redirect with and not. So that was fine, and that was the end of your turn. Right, so this is the end of my turn 2 movement phase. So over here, the drones, very disappointed with the drones I was at this point, it failed a 17-inch charge. Now they're movement 10 because they hover, so they needed 7 on 3 dice. And that's a charge that should have been made, but the dice went against me, so that's that. The Furies declared a charge on this organ gun, and they needed a 10 on the 2 best of 3 dice. So I never really expected them to get in. But what I was doing was trying to move them in this direction here, so that the Blight Kings could charge through and catch these dragon princes. Now the Blight Kings needed a 7 on 2 dice, and as it would turn out, they wouldn't make that charge. But that's kind of what was going on there. The beasts over here have closed the door on the Reavers because they have to. Now the failure of the drones to get into this unit here means that there's no chance of them overrunning and then getting into the war machines before my opponent's turn. And that means that my Demon Prince is stuck behind this building, because if he comes out, then he's an easy target for the mortar and for the grudge thrower. So that's a bit of a problem. He's going to have to sort of sit around here for a bit. I didn't declare a charge with him because I was expecting this one to get in. So now he's kind of stuck there. So then the Plague Bearers have moved forwards here. I don't want you charging me here. I don't want those lances on my Blight King. So the Plague Drones are going to have to take this. These Furies here, what I'm trying to do with these Furies is to get your White Lions to charge me. Because what I'm thinking is, I'll let you charge me, and then I don't know whether you might be tempted to overrun, bump into the building, and then sort of bounce off and get stuck, having to maneuver around the building. So I'm kind of playing for time there. And I think that's it. Oh, and the cannon is lining up here for another cannonball shot at this gyrocopter before it does any more damage to this unit. Right then, so this is the end of my turn. On the Winds of Magic, I've rolled a 5, which is the Storm of Fire. So that's bad news for any unengaged enemy units and any unengaged unit of Nurgle. So it's pretty bad news for me as well, potentially. The Storm of Fire, in the end, would take out 7 Elven Archers and took out 4 Plague Bearers over here. So that makes this job easier if they survive until later, but it also weakens me in the middle here, so this is not great news. I've cast Curse of the Leper on the steam tank, as I don't need to be able to see it to catch it. And what I'm thinking here is, if I can bring the toughness of the steam tank down, then I can cast Fate of Bajuna on the tank if I'm lucky, but actually Fate of Bajuna didn't casts on 13 as a level 1 wizard. Looks like I was wrong to stick with Fate of Bajuna there. I think I probably should have gone Spirit Leech, but there you go. And the cannon has hit the gyrocopter again, and would you believe it, has taken another single wound. So that thing lives on. The beasts in combat here had 16 attacks, but only hit you 3 times, plus 1 poison. But it was just about enough to cause you to break from combat, and that would cause you to flee. So that they're now in the way of this unit charging the beasts. And I pursued, but didn't catch it. And that was the end of my turn 2. So into my opponent's movement phase then, starting with the steam tank and its steam points, it actually misfired. And it gained D3 steam points but lost D3 wounds, and that would actually be 3. So it's now got 7 wounds left in total. The Ironbreakers have charged the Furies, and that's fine. You know, that charge was set up for you, so nothing wrong with taking that. The White Lions here have charged this unit of Furies, again, fine. And the Dragon Princes have gone in after the Plague Bearers, and I'm really not sure how this is going to go, because this unit is so depleted now. It's been hammered by a combination of the gyrocopter and the Tzeentch's Firestorm, so all is not well here. The Reavers have rallied, so they've turned around there, which is not good news, because that means that the beasts are going to be able to charge them and then overrun into the into the knightly order here. And this is why I thought, you know, that the Reavers needed to be placed in such a way where I'd close the door on you in this direction here, so that I would overrun this way or pursue you this way. Then you could have charged on the side with the knightly orders, but because of the way that you place them, they've ran into your own path and prevented you from charging, so that's not ideal. Spearmen have moved up, and the gyrocopters sort of turned around here to target the unit of plague bearers that's just behind the building. That was smart. They're your obvious target. You can't shoot this one because they're in combat. And the archers and the battle wizard here are sort of moving to cast spells in this sort of general direction over here, and that's fine. So yeah, that was good. Right then, so at the end of my opponent's turn, another poor magic phase. Only 3 on the winds of magic. And I managed to channel 1, so it was 3 dice against 3 dice, but that wouldn't matter because the battle wizard here is cranking up that fireball again, and he's miscast on the medium-sized version, which I think again was the right size to cast, on these Blight Kings. Now actually he only caused 1 wound on the Blight Kings, and then his miscast result was a 6, which is a calamitous detonation. So he took a wound himself and took out a few Empire archers along with him. So that was unlucky, really. Nothing you could have done about that. The gyrocopter has taken out another 5 plague bearers over here. And I got no ward saves, not 1, so that was a bit disappointing, but you did roll fairly badly when rolling to wound, so I can't complain too much, I suppose. And the gyrocopter did also manage to take a sneaky shot at the Demon Prince, but he saved that on his armor save. The Grudge Thrower and the Mortar, again, firing into space and hoping that it will scatter. You fired it between the drones and the king, so you kind of put it somewhere here. This was a mistake. It hit nothing, again. You misfired on the organ gun, and you re-rolled, when you re-rolled a 2, and you got no hits with the organ gun. So the organ gun has underperformed 2 turns in a row. But Ewan, this is just bad luck. There's nothing wrong with having the organ gun. It's absolutely fine. The drones were wounded by the archers and the quarrelers again. So these guys doing a sterling job down here. And then the steam tank with its 7 steam points, I think it's got now, or 8 steam points, took out a Blight King. This time what you did was you targeted the cannonball so you could hit 2 Blight Kings. So that's an improvement on your shooting earlier here. Unfortunately for you, though, you rolled a 1 on 1 of the dice. So that was that. And then the Iron Breakers here ripped through the Furies, and that was fine. And you ripped through these Furies here. I can't see whether you reformed. I think you did. I don't think you fell for the trap. I think you reformed to face this direction. So that was the end of your turn. Before I begin narrating my own movement phase, I should also mention that the plague bearers that were here managed to see off the Dragon Princes. Forgot that in the last clip. So this guy is fleeing here. So into my movement phase then. The plague drones have finally managed to make it into combat, only a couple of years late. And the elves failed to cause even a single wound from the stand and shoot, so that was a bit disappointing. The plague bearers decided not to pursue this guy here at the end of last turn because he could see these Iron Breakers here, and the Herald of Nurgle has got the regeneration locus, so I'm thinking he can sort of help this unit out. They're quite durable, even though there are only a few of them. This is a fairly small unit of Iron Breakers, so I'm thinking I could probably at least hold you up here. I'm wondering whether you will send the tank into the side of this unit, or whether you're thinking about it as more like a mobile cannon. And we'll see a little bit more about that decision later. The Demon Prince has charged this unit of spearmen as they've now moved sufficiently close that I can attempt to charge. I think that you won't flee because your BSB is in there, and of course, if you flee, then your standards die. So I'm thinking that you won't flee here, and you didn't. And I think that was it. I decided not to charge your eagle here that you've put in front of these plague bearers. Instead, I moved sideways, and what this meant was that your eagle is in a way blocking this charge because he's so close to me that he's going to struggle to get out of the way. If you decided to charge these plague bearers with the white lions, you'd have to first charge them with the eagle because you can't see anything else, and he would struggle to get out of their way, meaning that only 1 or 2 white lions would get into combat. So that was a sort of a strategic defensive move that you gave me by placing that eagle there. So that's something to think about. And I think that was it. Oh, the Blight Kings. I'm still trying to chase down these white lions because they're the only thing I've got that can really hurt you. And I'm thinking now I'll go through the building and come out behind you later on if I can. So I've moved sideways here, but I'm not quite close enough to the building. Oh, and the beasts here have charged the reavers who rallied, and I'm hoping to overrun into these knights. The cannon is lining up for a third shot on the gyrocopter, and hopefully we'll get it this time. So here we are at the end of my turn. You can see that the plague drones have ripped through what's left of the archers. Oh, I forgot to mention, prior to that, the elven mage here had actually left the unit. I don't think I spotted that earlier on, so that's why he's there. The plague drones ripped through what was left of the archers and have overran. They go straight, of course, when they overrun, and then they close the door on the first thing that they touch, which in this case was the mortar. My Herald of Nurgle has issued a challenge here to the Ironbreaker champion, who declined, so I sent him to the back because if he declines a challenge, if the unit declines a challenge, I can choose one model not to fight. So back he went. I actually won combat here. That regeneration 4+ coming in really handy alongside the -1. The Herald here has also got the Fencer's Blades as his greater gift, so he's got 4 attacks at strength 5 and he's very hard to hit. So that was what was going on there. The Spearman combat, the Demon Prince had inflicted 1 wound on the captain, and then he also inflicted 5 wounds from Thunderstomp, but the captain here has got a 2+ armor save, and he made 2 armor saves, so that was good. The magic phase earlier hadn't been very good. I rolled a 3, which was punished by the gods, and my Herald of Nurgle was the unfortunate soul to have to take the leadership test, but he passed that. And then I'd cast Curse of the Leper. I had wanted to cast it onto this unit. I wasn't sure how this combat was going to go. I know my troops are good, but they're outnumbered. But I don't think it was in range, so I think I attempted to cast Curse of the Leper here. I needed a 9 on 3 dice, but I only rolled 5 on 3 dice. So that was the end of the magic phase. And finally, the Skull Cannon has taken out that gyrocopter. This time, when it's only got 1 wound left, it did 6. But there you go. And that was the end, I think, of my turn 3, other than to say that the beasts, of course, ripped through the Reavers and overran into the Knightly Order. And that really was the end of my turn 3. Now, I realise at this point that I think we missed a photograph. I know that we missed a photograph because this should be the movement phase, but I noticed the knights are dead here. But I'll try and narrate everything that happened in one frame because it shouldn't be too complicated. Starting here, we realise that this Dragon Prince with a standard should have actually died because when the standard flees from combat, it's just gone. So we took that off, but not a problem. It hadn't interfered in the combat. The Demon Prince at the end of the last turn was still locked in combat. He's actually got the Soul Feeder, which gives him an extra wound on the roll of a 6 for every wound that he causes. But that didn't feed him any new wounds, so that was a shame, but never mind. 3 steam points were generated here, and you decided to use the steam tank as a cannon against the Blight Kings. And you did kill a Blight King, and that's fine, but that was the least effective of the 3 choices that you had. You could have pivoted the cannon to take a cannonball shot at the Demon Prince. That would have been worthwhile. Or you could have ran the cannon into the side of this unit. Cannons are particularly unpleasant when they're running into the side of a unit. Every steam point, I think, gives it D3 automatic hits or something like that. And then, of course, you've got impact hits as well. So that would have been really unpleasant for me. So I was really glad when you decided to fire the cannon there like that. You decided to reform the Ironbreakers. That was the right decision. Come and save these war machines over here. But I'd have been tempted to reform them a little narrower. You know, these guys here, they're not doing anything, nor are these guys over here. You could have got yourself at least 1 more rank, if not 2. At the end of the turn, the drones had overrun through the mortar into the organ gun, but prior to that, of course, it was your shooting phase, and the organ gun had taken, I think, a wound off a Blight King. Although, actually, I think that might have been saved on the roll of a 6. Grudge Thrower, you placed it here, hoping to scatter one way or the other. Again, you need to just put it on the unit where you want it to go. You've got a 1 in 3 chance of a hit, and some scatters won't scatter far. So that didn't really work for you. The beasts ripped through the knightly order and overran in your turn, because obviously I'd charged the Reavers and overran in my turn. That's why they overran here in your turn. And the Demon Prince has killed the captain here. Needed to get rid of his Battle Standard Bearer to make sure we weren't having any rerolls. And then he's done 6 Thunder Stomps, and they've all wounded, so he's going at full strength over here. But again, nothing from the Soul Feeder, so far he's caused, I think, 14 wounds, and picked up nothing extra from his Soul Feeder, so that was upsetting. Anyway, you broke from combat twice. Twice failed the leadership test, even though you were steadfast. That was unlucky, because you were leadership 7 on the BSB of the elves here, so you still did have a BSB, but that's the way it goes. You had about a 75% chance of holding with this BSB being here, but it wasn't to be. The Herald issued a challenge here, which your champion this time accepted, but no one got any hits on anyone over here, so we kind of did the thing where we waved our arms around at each other a bit and didn't do very much. And I think, let me just check my notes, yes, that, I think, was the end of your turn. Okay, so into my movement phase then. So, not a lot of movement happening on this side of the board. Obviously, the drones are locked in combat here, and the Plague Bearers are locked in combat here. You had made a mistake, though, in the positioning of this eagle. When you moved this eagle out of the way to clear the path for the White Lions later, you'd actually left it just in the charge arc of this unit here. So I actually charged you here, and you elected to flee. Now, what I was thinking was here, I want to avoid combat with these White Lions, and I need my Blight Kings to come through out of the other side of the building. So actually my Blight Kings have now entered the building, and they're in here. So what I was thinking was, if I charge you, I expect you to flee, and I'm thinking, if I can catch you, I've got 2d6 plus 4. You've got Swift Stride 3d6 minus the lowest, and there was a 1-inch gap between us. So I've got a roughly evens chance. As it turned out, he fled and I didn't catch him, so I failed the charge. Fleeing, I think, was the right decision. Otherwise, I'd have just overran out of here. And you did cause me to fail that charge, which has set this unit up here for these Blight Kings now. So that, I think, was the right decision. The Demon Prince has come from here to here. And what I've done here is quite deliberate. I'm 1 inch away from you, and I've got a wide base. You can't turn left because you come within 1 inch of me. You can't turn right because the further back of your cannon will come within 1 inch of me. So you can only move forwards here now. Although what you could have done was to move forwards and then pivot and then fire a cannonball at him later on. Well, that's what I'd worried about anyway. But because this unit was here, you couldn't risk. I was thinking couldn't risk firing a cannonball at the Demon Prince because you could hit your own troops, which of course you're not allowed to do. And the cannon is lined up a shot here. He's going to aim to put a cannonball down this line here, just in between these two units, the Demon Prince and the archers, into the cannon here is what I'm thinking there. And the Beasts of Nurgle have reformed over here. Right, so here we are at the end of my turn. It was at this point that Ewan, the dwarf player, remembered that he had the ancestral grudge rule. And Ewan, that was a missed opportunity, really, wasn't it? Because, you know, this unit here, as it would turn out, the whole army would have hatred against my demons. So you must remember to do that in the future because it's really important. In my turn, I cast Fleshy Abundance on this unit. I rolled a 10 on the Winds of Magic, so my whole army's got a 4+ ward save at the moment. I would miscast, and that would cause a calamitous detonation, so nothing you could do about it. And I managed to save the damage on all my troops from the calamitous detonation. And I lost 1 die from the power pool, so I got out really lucky there. I cast Curse of the Leper here. Can't remember whether I cast it on me or I cast it on you. I think I'd cast it on you because I knew I had Fleshy Abundance and I was more durable, so I was thinking now I could punch through you without too much worry about you hitting me back. But you saw the value in what I was doing there and you dispelled it with your Dispel Scroll. And I think that was the right thing to do because it was important that I get through here. Having said that, you could have probably put your dice into it. You did have 5 dispel dice, and you could have probably been pretty safe to have gotten that. As I think I'd cast this spell with only 3 or 4 dice. I'm not sure about that. I don't think using the scroll was the wrong decision, but you might have used the dice. Depends on how lucky you're feeling, I suppose. And I tried to cast Miasma of Pestilence on this unit, but that failed to cast. The Skull Cannon did 3 wounds on the tank, so it's got 4 left, so bit of a worry for the tank that is now. Over here in combat, the crew wounded a drone, but it's got a 4+ ward save, which it saved. But there were, I think, 2 crewmen survived. My drones were quite ineffective, and they were stubborn. So the Organ Gun crew here doing a good job of locking these drones into combat, which will allow you to charge with these Quarrelers and their great weapons. So that's going to get pretty ugly over there. The Dwarves lost their close combat here, partly as a result of Fleshy Abundance, but it passed on a leadership of 10, so that was fine. And that was the end of my turn, I think. Okay, so on to my opponent's movement phase. Just close to us here, the Dwarves charge into combat, obviously. The Cannoners move 9 inches forwards as a result of using its steam points, but obviously I'd railroaded you. What I'd done earlier here with the 1 inch thing is called railroading, and that had meant that you weren't able to put a cannonball through my Demon Prince, which I was relieved about. You've also decided to move the Elven Noble away from the danger of the of the plague drones. I think this was wrong. Well, no, this is wrong, because what you've done is you ran him into the path of a demon prince, and that is never, ever, ever going to go well for him. What you should have done with it, he was here, what you should have done was bring him around the back of here. These guys have got their hands full. And the only thing that could have gone after him would have been the cannon, but the cannon has got bigger things to worry about with the steam tank. So that was a sacrifice that was unnecessary, as we will later see. The eagle continues to flee and heads toward the board edge, and the white lions have charged the plague bearers just here behind the building, and this is going to get ugly. So, end of my opponent's turn. You've attempted to cast... You rolled an 11 on the Winds of Magic, although I channeled... But finally the Winds of Magic are coming through for you. You attempted to cast a Soul Quench on my Demon Prince, and I knew that you were going to cast a Soul Quench and a Fireball. Soul Quench is 4d6 strength 4, Fireball is 3d6 strength 4. I didn't have the dice for both, so I dispelled the Soul Quench. The Fireball, though, got through. You caused 2 wounds on my Demon Prince, both of which failed. You decided... I failed to save with armor and ward. You decided to cast a 2d6 version. I think you only had 4 or 5 dice, so I think that was probably smart. It was a safe play. 3d6 version you might have failed to cast, so that was fair enough. Hand of Glory was cast on the Ironbreakers, but as you can see here from the end of the turn, that wouldn't be enough to make the difference for them. No wounds on the Demon Prince from the Empire shooting, and that was a smart decision to take shots at him there, because he is at this point down to 1 wound, having suffered a couple of wounds earlier. I think he took 1 in combat over here earlier, and then he's taken a few from Fireball. I think he might have taken 1 earlier. I might have forgot to mention. I think he might have taken 1 from Tzeentch's Firestorm. On the Winds of Magic. Anyway, at this point he's down to 1 wound in the game, and this was a smart decision here. A bit of a no-brainer really, but still, you saw it and that was good. The Grudge Thrower again, trying to place it between units, and it actually ended up scattering onto your archers. But they passed a panic test, so that was okay. You must just place that thing on the target that you want to hit it with. Plague Bearer's got a good pasting over here. I lost by 9 points, so 9 extra died, so that was particularly unpleasant. The Organ Gun here was destroyed by this Plague Drone, and just as a result of weird dice rolls, you lost combat here, despite the fact that you got a load of Strength 5 attacks and a flank charge, but you were stubborn, so you passed there, that was fine. This unit here actually broke from combat against the Plague Bearers. You did forget your hatred, Ewan, and I didn't mention it to you because I wanted to give you a chance to remember it for yourself, and you must learn from these things. So I wanted to tell you that now so that you could remember it next time. But the Herald of Nurgle saved the wounds that were inflicted on him, and you were stubborn on a 10, but you just rolled an 11. At some point, stubborn is going to give way, so that was what happened there. And I think that was it for the turn. Check my notes. Yep, that was the lot. Okay, so this is my movement phase then. I've positioned the cannon here so that this eagle is in my charge arc in case it rallies. But at the same time, I can pop a shot off at the steam tank here. The Demon Prince has charged the noble, and you've decided to hold. He has no chance of surviving here, and I might have been tempted if I were you to have fled. The only problem with that, but it was already sort of in place, was if he'd have fled, I could have redirected into this unit, which is already fleeing, and they would have had no chance but to have fled. No choice rather, but to have fled. And you wanted to get the stubborn re-roll here, so hoping that after he's been ripped apart, just an unlucky roll. But if this noble rather had have come around the back earlier, we wouldn't be in this position. So that's quite important. And the Blight Kings have left the building. They're just behind the building here. And they're hoping to sort of... I'm hoping, now that I'm only one rank wide, I'm hoping that you won't get enough hits here. And if just one Plague Bearer survives, I'm hoping that I can get in the back there with the White Lions with the Blight Kings. So that was the end of my movement phase. Okay, so end of my turn then. I have rolled an 8 on the Winds of Magic, the Dark Prince Thirst, which has caused a wound on the Grudge Thrower and 3 wounds on the Iron Breakers that were here. But the Demon Prince in combat actually overran, and his... I think we might have played this wrong actually. The distance he overran was sufficient to bring him into contact with the dwarves here, which counted as a charge, so they fled, so he failed the charge. I'm not sure actually whether they had a reaction time or not. They possibly should have still been in base contact here, but that's the way we did it. I might have got the rules wrong on that. If any of the more experienced players are watching, please tell me if I got that wrong. I cast Curse of the Leper on the Quarrelers here. I was concerned that, forces are being depleted here, so trying to help them out. But that was dispelled. I cast Fleshy Abundance on this unit here. Still nothing coming from this Nurgle lore attribute, so that was disappointing. The Skull Cannon has taken 3 wounds off the Steam Tank. It's down to 1, you can see there. The Herald has killed 3 Quarrelers by himself. 1 wound on the Engineer in combat here. 2 wounds on the Quarrelers. 2 wounds on the Bearers. But the Dwarves lose combat but pass on their Stubborn. 1 Plague Bearer was killed over here, but BSB, 3 ranks, standard kill was enough to just pop this unit, and so the White Lions reformed, ready to take the Blight Kings. The Blight Kings, by now they're down to 3 models and needed all 5 to be able to engage this unit, and I really should have protected them. Unfortunately, they got deployed here at the start of the game because my opponents had many more units than me, and the White Lions went down right near the end. But I should have probably played them in a much more defensive way. They took too much punishment early on, and so now they're just too weak to engage those White Lions on the front. So that was the end of my turn. So into my opponent's turn 5 then. You can't see it from this picture, but the White Lions have charged the Blight Kings, who have just recently come out of this building here. They'd reformed at the end of the last combat, and that was a good decision on Fred's part. Well done, Fred. You saw that, and that allowed you to get this charge, and that was good. I did wonder whether you might miss the reform, but you didn't, so well done you. The Archers also reformed here. This Demon Prince is down to 1 wound. Again, good decision making here. This means you've got a few shots. You only need 1 to get through. And you've got the Fireball as well, so he's pretty much done for now. 5 on the Winds of Magic. You miscast a large Fireball. I say large, 2d6 version. Fireball. 50... No, sorry. The largest one. You went big on this one. 15 Strength 4 hits on the Demon Prince, and needless to say that later on we will see the Demon Prince was killed. So let's move on to the next picture before we continue the narration. Okay, so here we are at the end of the turn. You can see the angle of the photo has changed. Wanted to get this combat here in angle shot. So anyway, as we were just saying, the Demon Prince was killed by the magic here. The Steam Tank was down to 1 wound, and so you became very nervous with your Steam points. I'd have at least put 1 into it, because that cannon is going to be playing for a shot against you here, you might as well take the risk, because otherwise it's probably going to die anyway. So it would have been worth going for. So the grudge thrower, it says here, you went between in between the beasts and the cannon, hoping to scatter onto one or the other, and you ended up scattering in this direction, which you then rescattered. I think you've got some kind of rune on there, and it ended up going in this direction. And again, would have been better to have gone for one or the other rather than trying to scatter onto either. The engineer and the quarrelers passed their stubborn leadership test over here, so that fight goes on. The White Lions engaging these Blight Kings on the front are absolutely hammering them. These guys need to get in on the side, and they just didn't. But this one Blight King here did pass his leadership test at -4, so well done him. And that was the end of your turn. So on to my final turn. Not a lot to report in the movement phase. The cannoners moved along here for a nice clear shot on this steam tank because the beasts have charged, hoping to come and engage in the back. I know that this unit has got the Banner of the World Dragon on it, but there are a lot of attacks in here, and I'm just thinking maybe I can tip combat in my favour with a charge in a rear and a load of attacks. Maybe, just maybe, they're not going to do anything else. But they failed their charge, which is why the Skull Cannon came here. Everything else is locked in combat, so that's the end of the movement phase. Okay, so this is the end of my turn. Apologies for the sudden change in photo quality. You can see my now dead phone here. Battery ran out, so we changed to the iPad. So what happened? The beasts failed their charge. Might have mentioned that in the last clip. 5 on the Winds of Magic, so Firestorm again, but did nothing. I decided to cast Fate of Bajuna with my Herald because he's got the only spell that now remains, but that only caused 1 wound on the Grudge Thrower, so that would survive. The Skull Cannon misfired on its shot on the steam tank and rolled a 3, so that's the end of its part in the game. Combat here was won by the Plague Bearers and the Plague Drones. The Master Engineer fled, but the Quarrelers passed. 2 wounds were caused on the Noble by the Blight King here, but he saved one of them. And although the Blight King survived the assault, he lost combat and broke. And of course, he's a standard bearer. Was the last one. There is no champion in this unit, so he died. And the Lions reformed to face the beasts. And that was the end of my turn 6. So this is the end of the boys' movement turn 6. Not a lot going on really. The White Lions have charged from here and have engaged the beasts of Nurgle on the front. The Engineer has passed his rally on a 9 or 10, one or the other. And then the boys rolled a 9 on the Winds of Magic. And that was the end of their movement phase. And then here we are at the end of the boys' final turn. So a couple of things happening in this phase. I forgot to mention the archers reformed here. This was a good move. Well done for this one. Because you realise that there's nothing that they can do over here. So you're going to focus your attention on the Skull Cannon. Obviously there's Fireball here and a few shots. So you cast a big Fireball on the cannon. You had the power dice. It was ambitious. It was a good move. You caused 2 wounds on it with your 15 hits. 2 wounds left. And then with your only other spell, it was a good move. It was a desperate attempt, but it was the right thing based on the circumstances. You then cast the Burning Head on it, attempting to cause 1 wound on it, so that if you get 1 lucky shot here, it's dead. But as it would happen, the Burning Head didn't wound the cannon. It was a long shot. It was a strength 4 against toughness 5. so you were wounding on a 5+, and then there was an armor save and a ward save. But it was well thought out. You had your fireball, didn't do as much as you wanted it to, so burning head shots. You'd put the sequence together, and that was a good thing. And there were no wounds on the cannon from the archers, so it wouldn't work off in the end. In combat here, the Quarrelers were finally killed. They were all killed off. They never broke. They died fighting like real dwarves do. And the Grudge Thrower, the shot was placed in between, I think in between here again, and it's scattered to here. Again, that attempt to scatter, it's very rarely going to work, but it's a very common mistake amongst beginners. One wound on the beasts, one wound on the white lions. The beasts, the back one has died at this point. I think he's taken 1 or 2 against the knightly orders earlier in the game, something like that. But the beasts held. Oh, in fact, no. He died as a result of combat resolution. But the beasts obviously then weren't going anywhere, and that was the end of the game. Okay, so end of the game. There's 100 points of difference between us. So at the start of the game, we set out with a 600-point handicap. 500 points of that have been closed. The boys and I agreed 100 points represents a draw on a game of this size. So that's good news, because you played well enough to earn yourself a draw. Fair deal. There are 4 things I want to give you particular points on. And there are 4 things that I want to point out to you that you did really well as well. So let's start with the development points. The biggest thing in this game that let you down was your use of the Grudge Thrower and the Mortar. Repeatedly, you placed the target in between possibilities with the hope that it might scatter in the right direction. It rarely will. You need to place the template slap bang in the middle of what you want to hit and hope that it either rolls a hit or doesn't scatter too far. And you'll be surprised how often that will work out for you. So you need to do that from now. You need to take care in setting your opponent up. You need to think about the movement phase. There were 3 occasions in this game where you stitched yourself up, and I was able to take advantage of it. One was near the start, over on this side of the board, when you put the fast cavalry in front of the beasts. I charge at you, I close the door on you. So you get to choose the direction in which I overrun. You lined your fast cavalry up this way, rather than this way. Which meant that when I hit you, I went forwards, towards your knightly order. If you'd have put them here like this, I'd have hit you, closed the door, and gone this way, off to nowhere, which could have set up a nice flank charge with the knightly order. The eagle here. You set me up with an opportunity to charge you. Now, as it happened, it didn't work out for me, but it was a possibility that did not need to exist. And then over here, the mage set up to be charged by the Demon Prince, which set up those dwarves. Again, avoidable. So think about that. Your cannon shots, too often, you were not ambitious enough with your cannon shots. One drone here, you could have taken out 2. You could have crippled the unit more or less. You need to make sure that when you line your cannon shots up, you're taking out a second rank if you're able to kill the first. And then the last thing, the steam tank, didn't ever get anywhere near its potential. You need to get that thing forwards into the fray. The cannon's good. It's nice to have a cannon on there, but it's a bonus. You were treating this in the way that I treat this chariot. But this is just a chariot with a cannon. It's nice. It's good. It's a good chariot with a cannon, but it's nowhere near this. you need to get this thing into combat. You need to start grinding your opponent down. You had an opportunity to do that against the bearers here, and you decided to take a cannon shot. More steam points spent on movement. Get it up, get it involved, get it slamming into things. It's tough, it's got 10 wounds, it's strong, it can take the punishment. What did you do right? Well, your magical priorities, I thought, were very good. Considering that your first 3 turns, you got less than 6 power dice each time, I thought you did very well with your spells. The highlight of that was taking out the Demon Prince and the effective use of that fireball. But there were a number of times when you cast the right spells at the right targets. You did well with combinations. You saw how the Demon Prince could be taken out with a combination of magic and shooting, and you moved and you reformed at the right time to make sure that that was possible. That showed that you were thinking forwards, you were thinking beyond the current phase, and that was a good thing. That was very good. Did that with the Demon Prince, and you had the right mentality with the cannon, although it was too late in the game, but the thought process was there. That's the sign of a good player, so well done for that. Your missile fire, not including war machines, but your missile fire, the Quarrelers and the Archers, and the Empire Archers as well to a degree, that was very good. Your target choice was pretty good there. They were effective, so that was fine. Reforming, we've talked about the reform of this unit, thinking ahead with, you know, the Demon Prince here and the cannon here, that's good. Also here, you won combat against the Blight Kings, and you did have the vision to reform, ready to charge the beasts later on, thinking ahead. Again, sign of a good player. So in the end, a draw, but a draw with lots of learning opportunities. Well done, boys. You did an excellent job. I'm looking forward to our next game.